Before I start the podcast, some legal stuff. The content provided in this podcast is for general informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended as professional advice, and listeners shouldn't rely on it as such. The comments in this podcast are from my perspective and do not represent the opinions of my employer or any outside entities that I participate in. With that said, let's get started. I wanted to read a post that I wrote recently, or at least at the time of the recording of this podcast. And if it had a title and was an article, it would be called, "Your Last Draft is Never Your Last Draft." This is speaking specifically as a writer. The post reads, "Your last draft is never your last draft." If you're a new writer or a seasoned writer, I'm sure you can relate. Whether I'm writing a sketch or writing for a different format, every time I think I'm done, I don't feel like I am. There's always more left in the tank. It's almost like the test is never the test. It's not about getting to that final draft and thinking, I'm done. It's about the process of how you got there. Using sketch writing as an example, it's completely normal for me to go through at least 10 drafts before I feel like sending anything out into the world. I will go as far to say I feel like there is no final draft or final copy, more like a feeling of, that works. As a writer, specifically speaking in terms of a comedy sketch, I believe a heckler only wins if you don't come back next week. This applies to any type of writing. The only way you fail is if you refuse to write that next draft. So I encourage you, if you are a writer, trying to be a writer, you're a seasoned writer, I encourage you to keep going, because from my perspective, that works. For those who ask, why do you write? My answer is, because it's earned me $2 and a Casio. Why stop now? Bonus points if you get the reference. And in my post, I have an image included below of a Casio and two $1 bills. The reference is, of course, to the wonderful John Candy. And I'll leave it right there. But that was my post. And again, I don't feel like your last draft is ever your last draft. If you're out there writing, keep it up. It's really tough. It has its ups and downs, but you'll make it. And if you keep at it, you can do well. Right now, I want to take 3 seconds to eliminate the noise. I'll start now. Thank you all for listening. And like I always say, best to you all.